This hasn't been cut since they put this rock in. They didn't remove it, so it was just a root in the ground. So that was about 2 years ago. I just thought it was a good day to take a little video and just highlight what's happening around here. It's funny, this was trimmed about a month ago. I mean, it was so overgrown and crazy, but it's, they came and they trimmed these. They just lopped off the top 3 in a row. Same plan. They haven't even attempted to touch that in 3 years. But it's unfortunate because look, it's all dying. I guess maybe that's just the trimmings that they didn't take with them. All of this is dying. All of this has already died. Weeds everywhere. More weeds. More dying. Just totally overgrown. And I mean, it's not like this happens in a month. This has been years in process of not being maintenance. This, of course, was a beautiful hedge. And then they put the rock in, and it just kept dying. They just kept cutting stuff out. This is like where my hedges are. This is the state of the hedges. So, of course, they can't hedge this anymore because it's all dying. I told them before they put the rock in, it's going to kill everything. They didn't want to listen. But when this is the state of the ground, you took all the drippers that were in the back. This area was used to getting a different pattern of water, and then you just walked away from it and you just keep trimming out dead stuff. So this is the new growth we got this year went about that far, but everything else is just rapidly dying. It's just dying off from the inside. All of this, I mean, there's only leaves on the very outside, and this used to have leaves everywhere. But, there's weeds all over. Things like this will just sit here for years and years. There was one right next to it for a couple years. They took that one out, but left this one like this is going to grow back without trimming it back or doing something. We have weeds growing the size, if not taller, than plants in areas. I mean, even when they come and blow the sidewalk, they usually just blow everything up here. I mean, there's roof tiles that have been here for a really long time. There's another one. This is so full of palm debris back here. I mean, you can't even see the rock that we needed to dump everywhere. They did plant these a couple years ago, so that's all they did, but look at the ground. And again, look at the new growth. So we're about to go into winter here shortly, and so there's not going to be any more growth. But we can also see that the ground is not being maintenance at all, and this rock doesn't just last forever without ever touching it. I mean, this rock has been here quite a while. These drippers, I don't know what they're doing. They're not doing anything. All of this irrigation that's up above the ground, that's not good. But they have a bunch of these capped off because it's right in the walkway to get down here, which this used to be grass and very accessible. but people keep stepping on these. So instead of removing them, they leave them here to be stepped on by UPS and Amazon and all that good stuff. This is how they clean this up. It was covering 1.5 of these, but I guess that's clean now. It's very dangerous to walk over here. I love how they have this like dagger of a plant just right where you would walk up here. It's such a hazard. This is how this area looks all the time. Even way down there. It just, they just blow everything off the street. Look how many pine cones, dead branches are back there. I'll walk over there in a minute, but this is what I wanted to show you. So up close, this tree is just like leaning over like this, right? Like this was not the proper placement, but also this tree that oh, they just had something growing in between there, but if this was trimmed, it would bloom. But you see how it's just trying to bloom off the very last little newest thing because the old stuff hasn't been trimmed? Yeah, that's a problem. All of this is a mess. They planted these big thorny, these have like giant thorns on them. And so does this. So they were trying to, oh my God, look how much ants all over the place. That's not that normal. But this is what happens when you put in really crappy materials. It's just a haven for bugs. And I mean, is something in here leaking? Like, why? Oh wow, that's appropriate. There's just ants everywhere, all over. Where are they going? That's unfortunate. So I see when they say like, oh, there's a bunch more ants in this area. They are not lying. Wow, this sucks. This is right near my unit. I'm not exactly sure where they're coming from, but a lot of this is caused by the landscaping, by it not being maintenance, by bugs growing and dying, and ants harvesting off them. Otherwise, they're getting to the water. I'm not sure. But anyway. This is new. This is new. It's all dying. That's new. Halfway dying. This is this area that hasn't been trimmed. I think they trimmed in February, so it's August to September. So I'm sure they're trying to wait. You'd think they'd trim in the winter to like winterize everything, but they only trim lantanas. This is what I want you to see. They only winterize the lantanas. They don't trim back anything else. And then they won't actually trim the hedges again until March. It's usually when they do it, February, March. So it's a lot of time with things being, overgrown, I guess is a good way to put it. Overgrown and not looking uniform, not looking kept. I mean, things like this. You just would never see this in the past. Like a landscaper would see that and say, oh, that needs to be trimmed. The same with this. I love how there's like palms everywhere. Oh, there's a like giant flyby insect. But this is all burnt out and burning out. There's a palm tree growing out of that. That's nice. It's pretty dead and dilapidated though. They really should not have put this rock in. I mean, this was always really green and beautiful. But as you can see, there's only leaves on the very, very outside. So they can't hedge anything back. That's why it's like growing out over the sidewalk. Because if they actually hedged it the way it should be, it would be bald. So it surprises me because this property just sold. Both of these just sold. And this is what they get to move into. this should be a hedge. And you can see not a lot of new growth. Yeah, when it doesn't get trimmed right, it's just not healthy, and it just goes on, and the cycle repeats, and it's just dying out. So that's the story on that. They did remove that tree though, which I mean was leaning over its whole life, so that's good. But they need to remove those other two things, and really that palm tree, it just was trimmed, but that's often just flapping into the building and growing into the patio because they don't trim it enough. So as long as this gets trimmed back, I don't mind it, but the other two have to go because they grow, they're just too big. They don't belong there. This should be trimmed too. It's a shame. If these were trimmed back, they would be greener and happier. But they're just old, like they're trying to grow. Just like all this stuff, it's trying to grow. But it doesn't have the ability. We're not helping it. Just out of, this is nice, huh? Maybe if we just clean that up now instead of waiting for it to all drop on the ground. Here's a lantana, and you know, it's getting plenty of sun, so something's wrong. Maybe the rock? Maybe all the pine needles stuck in there killing it? This too, I mean, this was not like trimmed back out of love. This was trimmed back because something was dying and there's nothing left to it. But again, the roots completely covered in, it's hard to see, but it's completely covered in bushes and, not bushes, pine needles, old pine needles. And we've known from past boards that that is a big problem to the grass dying and, you know, all of this stuff. It's like the border of all the grass is brown and dying. Just curious what's going on back here. See more stuff like this, like why do we not? There's just so much debris on top of debris on top of debris sitting in this tree. That's why bids are expensive, because nothing's been maintenance, so they charge way more to do it right instead of us just taking the cheapest bid and it just not being done at all right. I mean, it's a joke. There's like garbage bags in there, there's trash, there's weeds all over the place. I think this is an olive tree. There's a couple of them. I mean, this is just so overgrown. You know, when everything's growing into everything else. And this, I mean, if you stuck your hand in there, it's just so full of rubbish and bugs and more little palm tree things all over the place. I mean, I know those didn't grow in 1 year, but look how this this tree is trying to grow through these two palm trees because it's so big, and it's touching this in the back as well. You can't even see the ground cover because it's, whoa, it's so covered in all this pine yuckiness. More garbage down there. I mean, they don't even really bother. And I'm sure that a lot of this is they're just blowing this back up, but there is rock under this. It should just be rock and ground cover, but it's basically pine needles. Anyway. Again, this just takes a second to trim. Somebody was, I don't know what they're doing, but it looks like baking soda or something. But again, let's look down here. I mean, you could barely even see the rock. Like, every little place is just a hiding spot. And you can see all the burn and all the dead and same thing going on. There's not a lot of life in there. It's pretty barren. See, something like this would have been better. I mean, this is a bit cleaner, but is it? No. It's not a bit cleaner. And the plants are not looking any better. weird how this just has white stuff. Is that from the roof? But I mean, it's loaded with crap. Like, how does that even get up under there? Oh, they blow it under there. We got exposed piping. We got some trash back there, lots of weeds. And the HOA just says, everything's fine. Everything's fine. That's fine. This right here, this rock we needed to put in, that's fine. It just boggles my mind that all of the broken sprinklers, like there's a trail of them. So you don't need to guess where stuff broke because their clippings are left, the irrigation is left, the roots of trees are left. Like, it's pretty clear to see exactly what was and what wasn't done. Our pine needles clogging up the roots. So I love how this area has this beautiful pathway that pretty much goes to nothing. Oh, I guess over there maybe it continues, but isn't this a beautiful area? It's amazing how clean this is. One of the few. So I mean, what would it really take just to... And it's all dying anyway, right? I mean, I doubt that's how it's supposed to look. It's a little better, but I mean, these was literally not, what, a year and something old, and it looks like we've had it 100 years. More hedges dying. More plants that, I mean, what's the point of these in front? You can't see the hedges in back, I don't know. Wow, a tree that looks somewhat healthy. Not trimmed back or anything, but not brown. And I mean, you can see over here that it's full of debris. It's dying because it's full of debris. More the same. Oops. This rock, which should just see rock, this little rock, I mean, even that needs to be maintenance, but this rock, we shouldn't have all that debris in there. Oh, this is clearly leaking so much that, oh my gosh, the whole thing smells bad over here. Something, I don't know the smell. Is that gas? What is that smell? I'm not sure what this box is, but I don't even want to smell it because it might be a chemical. It smells weird. I'm not sure what it is. I just wanted to point out this area too. Look at how much debris is in all these rocks. It's just full of debris everywhere. These are new, so that's really helping. And it just goes on. This area has been probably one of the most neglected. I mean, it's pretty, I don't know if you could see with the that roots are covered. This is an oleander. It should be flowering. These have little red flowers when they're healthy, but this probably won't recover. It's dying, dead, dying. But this tree is creating so much. One, it's just so overgrown. I mean, I'm on wide angle. Let's see how big they've let this tree get. I mean, it's monstrous. So cleaning up after it is difficult. But if we trimmed it back and maybe gave it some shape, you think it'd be better. But This area looks like this often. It has this really awful rock that's dying. This, you can see, is just clearly overgrown for a while. These are new. This doesn't grow really well, but look at the ground. I mean, if you're not going to maintenance at all, got a palm growing here. Look at how much buildup is just sitting there. Like, maybe clean that. I don't know. You know, we all pay the same dues. I just wanted to note this, though. These were here because this is the only other parking for this building. There is no other parking anywhere near here, which is a lot of the reason why people that have a little hill next to their parking need a way down. So here are some stepstones, which oddly enough, whoever put this rock here went around, but these aren't very safe at the moment. But there's something someone put in here, and interestingly enough, that was after I put mine in, and then mine were ripped out. Actually, these were here when mine were ripped out, which is so interesting, and they're still here. So don't ask for your area to be maintained, otherwise they rip out your only way to get to your vehicle and blame you and tell you to park in the garage, even though very few people with one-car garages park in the garage. And I actually do park in my garage, but I actually have 2 vehicles, so I definitely don't use one a lot because we don't have a lot of parking. So I park over by my unit and I can't access it in the dark, or it's just dangerous. So I don't do that as much. Anyway, this tree is just full of dead. This one as well. This one back here is dead. Let's see. These 2 trees are one. This tree's pretty dead. This pine in the back is very not looking good. And this tree, this big one, has a lot of dead going on all over the place. But again, it's so big, you know. I mean, they could have trimmed some of this back so it wouldn't be such a feat for someone to eventually do. This tree's dying too. So, I don't know. I have a tree that's been looking the same exact deadness right across from me for 18 months. So, I don't know what the rules say on, you know, the time frame they have to maintenance things, but we can clearly see things aren't being maintained. Too many things.